do it again. I'm going to click New Flow, and this is going to be Steve's Public Brain Trust New Flow. We'll click Create. Now, Connect remembers the apps that I've already hooked up to. And that's handy because there's one part of setting up a flow that's important. That is that if this is a third-party application, we have to authenticate to that application. And if you've ever worked with APIs, like some of these down here, you know that sometimes the first day or 2 or 3 is spent figuring out how to get through their particular OAuth authentication setup and get it to work right and manage their tokens and refresh those tokens properly and so on and so forth. Connect does all of that for us, right? So I've already connected to Typeform and to Slack. The great thing is, once I've connected, Claris Connect remembers that, and it lets me reselect an existing application and reuse those connection credentials. I can also choose different triggering connectors. So note that some of these are grayed out, right? The ones that are grayed out, I can perform actions against, for instance, AWS SES, which is Amazon's simple email service. I can use this to send an email, but I can't use it as a trigger. So not all connectors can be used as triggers. Some can just be used as actions, right? Whereas others can in fact be used as triggers. So I had chosen previously Typeform up at the top. It can be used as a trigger, also Twilio, Trello, you name it. And some of these have quite a few different trigger actions available to us. Some have just a couple. Let's stick with Typeform though. Let's start with that. So what are my trigger actions available from Typeform? There's one, new form response, okay? So I get a form response, it triggers. Now, Claris Connect realizes that I've actually connected to Typeform twice. I've got one that I connected this morning and one that I connected last night. We'll pick the account that I connected this morning. Now that account is already hooked up and credentialed, but even if it wasn't, what's going to happen is it's going to pop a typical OAuth permissions window. It's going to say, here's what Connect wants to do with this app. Is that okay? I'm going to click the accept button because I'm in the same browser that I set up those apps on. My browser already has my stored credentials for those other services, and all I have to do is click that accept button and away we go. We're done. Since I have connected to Typeform, it's able to reach out, Connect is able to reach out and grab the form that I set up on Typeform. I set up a form called Customer Feedback. And what is that form? Let's pop over to Typeform because I was unfamiliar with Typeform before playing with this. I may be ashamed to say it's pretty cool. Typeform is an application that lets us build really cool forms, and their kind of angle on things is that they work via a variety of devices, including your keyboard. You can type into these forms. So I picked one of their templates. I made this template, was a customer feedback template. I tweaked a couple things on it, and I renamed it to customer feedback, right? So I created this Typeform template in my free account. And what Claris Connect is asking me to do now, note this right here, submit the selected form once to continue. I really like this about Connect because what it's doing is it's kind of an iterative development and testing process, right? It's made the connection to Typeform. I've told it which form I want to hook up to this flow. It's saying, great, now do that so I can show you what I got when you did that thing, right? So let's do that. Let's pop over here and let's take this form and let's preview it. So this is going to bring up Typeform. This particular form is like I said, a template that they have set up. I did not come up with these graphics and words in a matter of minutes, but it's pretty nicely done. So in this case, it's a store called Waves, and Waves sells products, and this is a customer experience survey at the end of, let's say, a purchase on Waves Inc. So let's give feedback, and I will note that I am only going to use my keyboard to do this. I'm going to hit the Enter key. How would you rate our online store? Based on design of the site. Okay, we'll give it a 4. Based on the range of products, well, looks like you're just getting started. I'm going to give it a 2. Finding what you needed, that was really easy. A 5. Product descriptions, pretty good. And then asking about shipping, delivery on time. Man, it was there the same day. The driver was awesome. The condition of the product was perfect. How did I interact? Well, I interacted with D, the laptop desktop, right? So what I've done here is I've gone through and I've stepped through that Typeform form. Well, what's happened is that Claris Connect has gotten that response, right? It was already hooked up to Typeform and hooked up to that specific form and listening. It's now gotten that response. So I'm at the next step. I can save that, and then I can add an action after that first triggering event, right? So anytime that happens in that form, it's then going to do this next action. So let's add an action, and let's send a message to Slack. Now, my team will tell you I am not the biggest Slack user. In fact, I think I've used it twice in the last year. So I am not a Slack expert, but I'm a slacker, exactly. You know, it's a very interesting business messaging platform that I think may see some increased relevance here in the next few weeks as businesses try to figure out how to work increasingly virtually, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to post a message. Maybe we're going to post a message to a channel that the web dev team is monitoring, and they're trying to get feedback on the changes they just made to the site, right, to the ordering process. So we're going to post that message to Slack. I'm going to click continue. Again, what account? I've already authenticated, so we're going to go ahead and reuse the authentication that I made previously. And it now has reached out and talked to my particular Slack account, harmonicdata.slack.com, and has all of our channels available there. So I'm going to say I want to post a message to the Harmonic Studio channel. That's kind of a generic channel that we have here that is just basic messages for the team. I'm going to post to the Harmonic Studio channel. And what do I want to say? Well, I want to say something like, we just got some feedback. The purchaser thought that, I can't remember what the questions were. How do I figure that out? Well, Connect does a cool thing here, right? What it lets me do is it lets me click in, and it lets me read into the response that it had just collected from that previous step. So what are we looking at here? What we're looking at, if you've done any API integration, what we're looking at is a parsed and formatted JavaScript JSON response, right? And it's giving us that JSON response. And Typeform does a nice thing, because what it does is it has, first of all, the definition of the form itself, and it reminds me that question 0, the first question, was design of the site. Oh, that's right, okay. So the purchaser thought that the site design, but really it's not thought that, right? Because they give us a rating. So I'm going to say the purchaser rated the site design as A, and then how do we get that rating, right? Well, if I click back in here, it looks like it's not here. What if we scroll down? Do we have answers somewhere? Oh yeah, there it is. There's our answers, right? And answer 0 was a 4. So I can just click on that, and it's going to merge that in, right? And then before I leave here, I can buzz back up and I can find, let's see, what else are they going to want to know about? Finding what you needed. I think they were worried about that because they were working on the search engine for the site, right? So finding what you needed. They reported their search experience as A, and I'm going to merge in the answer to finding what you needed, which was question 2, question ID 2. Question ID 2 was a 5. And period, right? Username, we'll post it as Claris Connect. We have a URL that's the icon we're going to post to Slack, so we could put a custom icon in here. And we could add a message attachment. But let's save that as is, right? And now what we need to do, we've got a simple little flow. It's a two-step flow. Certainly not the entire reason why you would purchase Claris Connect, but it didn't take me very long to set all that up and authenticate and get it ready to work. So let's turn that flow on and let's try it. Let's go back over here. I'm just going to hit the back button. And I'm going to say, no spam risk. I don't want to talk to you. And let's go ahead and preview that again. This customer's experience was a little different though. How would you rate the online store? The site design, 2. Range of products, they were okay. Finding what you needed, 2. Product descriptions were pretty good. Okay, shipping was awesome. Yeah, friendliness, great. Condition was excellent. Let's see here. Smartwatch. All right. Let's just go ahead and pop up Slack. Look at that. We just got some feedback. The purchaser rated the site design as a 2, and they reported their search experience as a 2. Oh, man. I thought we did way better with our redesign. What happened? You know, so the web team comes to the integration team and says, we need to figure out what's going on here. Do we have any more feedback? Did you just ask those 2 questions? I mean, what's going on? Oh, no, I asked more questions. Maybe, I wonder what kind of a device they were using to use on the site, right? So here's the cool thing about Connect. Let's just edit that, right? So we're going to go in here to this post message step and let's extend that message. We'll run all the way over to the right. We'll say the user's device was a, and I can tell you from having looked before, the answer to that one's all the way at the bottom. So we'll merge that in. And then we'll resave that. Now I want to show you something right here because we just did that action. Connect is doing us several things, several favors at once. They've got this nice little versions tab over here, right? So they're version tracking. And we can see that the current version is now this last one where we updated the Slack configuration. We can drive in and we can see that that answer ID 7 was added, right? If I go back to versions and I click on a previous one, we can see that answer ID 7 is not there. Actually, yes, is not there, ID 2, right. Those glasses I was talking about. So, and we could restore that previous version, right? We could overwrite our version if we made a mistake or we broke it. Of course, we're not going to do that. Let's go ahead and rerun the form once again. So we'll back up here. We're going to preview that form and give the same feedback. Yeah, it was a 2. Range of products, okay. 2. Product descriptions were good. Shipping was awesome. Still ordering from my smartwatch, right? We go to Slack. Oh, now we know why it was 2s, right? They were using a smartwatch. We totally haven't built the site to work on a smartwatch. We got to get hopping on that. Not sure how many people order from their smartwatch, but you know, I'm sure the numbers are going to go up. So let's talk about a couple things that happened there, right? We built the flow, we hooked it up, we edited the flow, we saw the version control. The flow also occurred. Claris Connect is keeping a 30-day history for us of every time that flow ran and did it succeed or did it fail. Now, if we're interacting with a variety of services, on-premise services, etc., the version history could be incredibly important for debugging what's going on. We also have a handful of settings where we can tweak how the flow recurs, whether it retries actions that worked or didn't work. And one more thing I want to point out before we exit Claris Connect's console here, and that's these approvals. No, we didn't set up one with an approval. But we could go back to one of these flows and we could add in another action, and that action could be an approval. And with an approval, I can reach out and get a human response. And then I can fork the rest of my flow based on that response. That's pretty powerful. I don't need to build any kind of custom code to do that. It's built in for me. So with that, let's step back to the presentation here. And let's have a look at some of those key differentiators between Claris Connect and other iPaaS software. The first one, those approvals I was just showing you, right? Most iPaaS software just looks for a trigger, it performs subsequent actions. Doesn't have the ability to pause in the middle of a flow and allow that human intervention and orchestration for the event. Claris Connect has that ability. Second one, most iPaaS software doesn't have if statements. And the if statement really allows us, with error capturing and with logic processing, to build very sophisticated and powerful flows that can fork and do a variety of different things depending on the particular circumstances and conditions. Third, Claris Connect does not have any feature-based pricing restrictions, right? There are not different tiers of features depending on what package you go with. All features apply to all tiers. The fourth one, and one that really matters to me, is reaction time. It is real time. It is instantaneous, no delay at all. Some iPaaS platforms, especially in their less expensive tiers, will delay up to 15 minutes between a trigger and the event occurring. And sometimes that's okay, but in a lot of the business situations we work with, that just simply would not be a solution. Fifth, it provides unquestionably the best connector to FileMaker itself, and we're going to talk about that again in a second here in another slide. And then lastly, and something my team is very excited about, is the code block. So this is coming soon. It's not available yet, but it's coming in the near future, and it's going to allow us to use server-side JavaScript to extend those capabilities of the platform and have even more complex automations available to us. So Claris Connect and FileMaker, two Claris products, and they certainly are separate products. You can purchase them separately. They're not, you don't have to have one to have the other. But together, they provide a complete platform, and they really enable powerful digital transformation. Anyone can achieve these integration and automation routines in minutes as opposed to days, and it's simple and accessible with some very powerful and robust results. Right? The other piece of this that's really important is that Connect delivers that on-premise connector and lets us interact with a FileMaker system even if it's on-premise and behind a firewall. So working together provide a truly powerful combination for workplace innovation. So how do you purchase it? Right now at launch, there are two different options, and they're kind of targeting the middle of the business market here. There's Essentials and Standard. Essentials starts at, is $99 a month, and it includes 3 active flows. That means 3 flows that are in production and turned on. You can have as many inactive flows and development flows as you want, but 3 active flows turned on. It includes 10,000 API calls a month. Now, what's an API call? An API call is effectively a step. In general, each step is an API call. Some steps require more than one API call, but in general, it's one API call per step. Stepping up, the top tier option right now is Claris Connect Standard. That is $249 a month, and it includes 6 active flows and 50,000 API calls a month. You can have as many disabled or inactive flows as you want, and that's it. That's the all-in pricing. That's the server, it's the storage, it's the history, it's the version tracking, it's everything. You choose the best way to start, and there are expansion packs available for additional API calls or additional flows if you have the standard version. So how do you try it out, right? Pretty easy. go to claris.com. They have a trial download available to you. It is free. You can play with it for 15 days. It's basically the Essentials package that has 3 flows, 3 unique apps, 10,000 API calls available. You are limited to 3 apps only in the trial package. There is no app limit in either the Essentials or standard version. You can, if you like what you see, you can then purchase that. You can convert it to a full version with a store purchase or a Claris sales rep. So with that, that's my introduction to Claris Connect. And I think we're going to take a brief pause here and switch over and maybe see some fun Connect demo with one of our team members.
Okay.
All right, now you're on. Go ahead.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today?
Good.
Awesome, awesome. Just give me a few moments to get set up here and I'll get this presentation started for you guys. Okay, we'll do that. Everybody, my name is Javi. I am a JavaScript developer apprentice here at Harmonic Software Production Studio. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about connecting with AWS Lambda functions through Claris Connect. The goal of today is going to be, we're going to build a flow in Claris Connect and we're going to use that flow to get text from images that we upload.
Javi, all right, we're going to do something live and exciting.
Sure.
We didn't get a chance to do a mic check with you because you were working.
Sure.
All right, so start talking again.
Hello. Hi, Fred.
Yeah, he's not coming through right now.
Am I not? Am I?
Hold on.
Hi.
Go again.
I appear to be on?
You are on. Okay.
All right.
So this is for all of the not very many people who are watching us right now. This is what we do.
Sorry for the technical difficulty,
I'm
guys.
not afraid of new technology. And my mic's not on right now, so what I need you to do now, Hob, is I want to give you a number. All right, 41. 41. Go ahead and get started again. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody in the audience, as we do this. Introduce yourself again.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Javi. I'm a JavaScript developer here at Harmonic, and I'm going to be talking to you guys today about connecting with AWS Lambda functions. So the goal of today is we're going to create a new Claris Connect flow to connect from Twilio to Claris Connect to an AWS Lambda function, which will then grab text from an image and write it to our FileMaker database. Big plans we got today. So the steps of success are, we're going to go ahead and build a new flow in Connect. That's where we'll start. And we'll go ahead and connect to Twilio. We're going to review some code for the Lambda functions that I've created that are going to help us out today. We're going to then integrate those Lambda functions into Claris Connect. And we're going to connect to FileMaker. And then finally, we'll get to try it all out live. All right. So here are some of the technologies we're using. So some of the technologies we're going to be using today are, first and foremost, our awesome new tool, Claris Connect. We're going to be using JavaScript, and in JavaScript, we're going to be using the Node.js development environment. We're also going to be using Axios as part of one of our Lambda functions. to send an outbound HTTP request. And again, the cloud platform we'll be using is AWS, and within that, we'll be using Lambda functions. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing I want to do is go ahead and open up Chrome, and we'll go to Claris Connect. You can see I was doing some work there before. We're just going to complete the step. Let's go ahead and test that. Boom. All right, so let's go ahead and go into our projects. I'm going to be using this project that I've already had, that I've made a couple of demos for previously. You can find them on our channel. So let's go ahead and create a new flow. So we'll name our flow image to text. Awesome. Cool, cool. And so our first connector is going to be Twilio. Twilio is a service that allows us to send and receive text messages and calls to our web application. You can go to twilio.com to get a little bit more information on how their platform works. What I'll tell you is I've never used Twilio prior to this experience, and it was a breeze to set up. And it's very easy to use and very simple. So let's go ahead and set that up. So our trigger for our flow is going to be a new SMS message. All right, we're going to go ahead and use our Twilio account that I've already set up. I'm going to hit continue here. I'm going to select the phone number. The phone number I'm going to be using is this one. And guys, please don't send us any text messages with faulty pictures. That just wouldn't be nice. And then this will give you a URL, a callback URL. This callback URL is what you'll put into twilio.com, which will redirect text messages from that number to your web application. In this case, it's going to be Claris Connect. So let's go ahead and hit save. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add another action. And the action we're going to use is a Lambda function. Now hold up. I told you we were going to go ahead and review those Lambda functions, right? So let's go ahead and get that done real quick. Let's see if I can find them here. All right. So the first Lambda function that we have set up here, you'll notice, is a upload to S3. So the process that we're going to follow to go ahead and parse the text from an image is we're going to first upload that image to an S3 bucket. After we go ahead and upload it to an S3 bucket, what we'll do from there is we'll send it through AWS recognition, which will return to us the text parsed out. So let's take a look at this Lambda function here. So the first thing is we're going to load in our AWS configuration. We're going to specify, hey, we want to use a new AWS S3 instance. I'm going to go ahead and blow this up for you guys so maybe a little bit easier to see. Is that easier to see for you guys? All right, awesome. Yeah, so these are the two packages we'll be using, the AWS SDK. We'll also be using Axios, as I mentioned before, to send an outbound HTTP request. And getting back to the code, this S3 object here is a new AWS S3 object connector, if you will. We have a simple function here, and what this function does is it uploads an object to AWS. This function takes a name, a bucket, and a URL. So the first thing we do is we're going to go ahead and check, hey, if we weren't able to create our new S3 instance, we're going to go ahead and reject this right away and say this is a no good Lambda function at this point. Then we're going to go ahead and try to send an outbound request using Axios to the URL specified, and this URL being the URL for the image that we're trying to parse. From there, we'll go ahead and get the data back as an array buffer. We'll go ahead and write it to this local variable called file. Then we're going to go ahead and upload it to S3. You can find a lot more documentation about this. I know I'm breezing over it quite fast on the AWS SDK documentation. For this specific implementation, you want to be looking at the Node.js portion of it. Okay, awesome. So once we go ahead and upload it to S3, if it was successful, we should get back an object looking like this from our Lambda function, which should give us the name, the data itself, and a URL for that data. However, if that does not work, what we'll do is we'll get an error object here that will send us the error, an HTTP error code, error status of 400, and an unable to upload message. All right? Now let's take a look at the other Lambda function we got here. This one's a little bit simpler. All it does is we have our same packages. We've gone ahead and initiated a new recognition instance, And what we're gonna do with that is we're gonna go ahead and use that recognition instance to get the name of the file, get the file by name, which is passed into the Lambda function, from the bucket that we specify, which is also passed in from the Lambda function. Once we go ahead and get that, we're going to run the recognition software on there, and what we're going to do is we're going to detect the text on there. You'll notice here that I have a confidence set of 70. Well, that was 70. So the minimum confidence for the text that it's parsing from the image must be 70% or higher. So let's take a look here. Again, if we have an error, we're going to go ahead and send back this error object here. And if we're successful, we should get a similar object to what we've seen before from the last Lambda function. So let's go ahead and try this out on Connect. So I've already set up my AWS account, primarily because there's some sensitive information on there that wouldn't be great to get out into the public. So what we're going to do is we're going to invoke a Lambda function as our action. Let's go ahead and select that account that I set up. And then we'll select a region. And the region that I prefer to use is US West. That's the region where my Lambda functions are deployed on AWS. And then the function that we're going to call, you'll see it shows up here, is upload to S3. Version I'm going to leave blank. I've turned off versioning for this S3 bucket, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that blank. And we'll add our JSON object here. Now remember, this has three properties. It has a name, right, which will be, let's go ahead and grab it. So from our Twilio message, what we'll do is we'll take the incoming phone number. We'll add an @sign. Now, let's say I, from this phone number, send 2 pictures. What'll happen? The first picture will get erased from the bucket automatically, which is not exactly what we want, right? So we need a unique way to differentiate each upload from the next, because one single user with one phone number can be sending multiple files. We want to be able to keep them all for record. To do that, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and add in another block here. I'll just go ahead and save this for now. And then we'll go ahead and add in another action here. And that action will be the date utility. This one is very simple. We're going to get the current date. And let's test it out to see what that looks like. We'll set a region. Well, sorry about that, guys. We'll set a region. And what I'll do is I'll set this to UTC, because it's always best practice, as Steve has taught us before, to use UTC timestamps. Now let's go ahead and review and test this and see what that timestamp looks like. There we go. Looks pretty cool. And time being unique, because seconds obviously never remain the same, then this provides us a way for getting a unique name for our AWS file name. So let's go ahead and save that in. We've saved that now. Now back here, to make our name unique, like I said, we're going to add in that time that we got. So now no matter how many times this from phone number sends a message, each one of those objects will have a unique name, being that it'll have the date timestamp added on to it afterwards. The next thing we're going to need is a URL. And so let's go ahead and specify that URL. Now, when we send a picture message through Twilio, what it does is it attaches a URL of where that image is into their response JSON here. And you can see here that object has a key of media URL 0. So the more pictures you send in, the more media URLs you'll have, and it'll go from 0 and upwards. But you'll see here that in my case, we're going to be using media URL 0 because we're only going to be sending one picture or expecting one picture. So let's go ahead and close that out. Now the last thing we're going to need is a bucket. And so let's go ahead and specify our bucket. For the purposes of this presentation, I've already gone ahead and created this bucket, and it is Claris Connect demo, claris.connect.demo. And there we go. So let's just make sure our JSON object looks good. Looks pretty fine to me. Let's go ahead and save that in. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to invoke another Lambda function, the one that's going to recognize the text from that image for us. Now, real quick, before we move forward, I want to make a note that there is already an existing connector for S3 where you can upload objects to your S3 buckets. However, I was having some trouble working with that connector earlier yesterday, so I decided to just go ahead and spin up that Lambda function to do it for us. So the next one, we'll grab that image from the Lambda bucket, from the S3 bucket, and run it through recognition. So let's go ahead and again, select our region there. We're going to go ahead and select our function, which is get text recognition. Again, we'll leave the version blank, and then we're going to go ahead, and this, if we take a look here, this Lambda function only takes in a name and a bucket, whereas the other one took in a name, a bucket, and a URL. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in that name. And so the name, we already know what we've named this, right? Because we've constructed that before. We can go ahead and rebuild it from the Twilio API, or what we can do is just go ahead and grab, oh, we're getting an error there, so we'll actually just construct it. All right. So we know that it's going to be phone number, and we know it's going to have the timestamp. Okay. And so the next key that we're going to have here is going to be the bucket name. And so let's get that bucket name here. And that bucket will be claris.connect.demo. Awesome. Now, there's a problem that I already recognize with this, and that problem is that this date object may or may not update with the current date, which can be different from the date of the date used when we invoke the last Lambda function. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this in, and for demonstration purposes, just so we get the right information in our step data, I'm going to go ahead and text an image to that number. Let's just text any old image, just so we can get something. If we take a look at the history here, in a few moments, you'll see that request will populate here.
Do you have to enable it?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I do have to enable it. Thanks for catching that. I'm always forgetting to enable it. All right. Let's go ahead and send that again. Okay. Just going to wait for that to show up. So it's pending now. And in a few moments, it should be either failed or successful. So it was successful. Let's take a look. So now you see that from the first Lambda function, what we're being returned is the name. So we can use that name because it's the exact one that the first Lambda function used. So for security purposes, to make sure there's no collisions or any other errors in the future, that's what we're going to go ahead and use. Let's go back to our flow. Let's go here. And back down here where we had the name, we're going to go ahead and get rid of this here that we constructed, and we'll just use the name passed back from the last Lambda function, which will be right here. Awesome. Let's go ahead and save that in. Now, so the last step I've been having a little bit of an issue with. I've been working with Matt here this morning to go ahead and try to figure that out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not exactly 100% sure why. I'd love to get more information and let you guys know at a future date. But what we were trying to do is connect with FileMaker Server 18, and so we'll go ahead and try to do that again live with you guys. I've already created a FileMaker file that is available at this address, and I'm going to put in my credentials and hope that that we're able to connect to it. So there we go. The database name is Connect ID Demo, and darn, we're still having that issue. Just make sure, just to dot our I's and cross our T's, that I didn't type in the password wrong. Yep, wasn't me. All right, so alternatively, what we're going to do is we're just going to, just so that we can visualize this data and see that this flow is working, we're going to go ahead and use a different connector. The simplest connector to use right now would be the Slack connector. And with Slack, what we'll do is we'll post a message, and we'll post that to the account that I've already set up, which is the same account that Steve was using earlier. And the channel we'll send this to is the Connect's ID demo. Now the message body of this will be let's go ahead and send new file, new image scanned, let's say. And then we'll put the name of the image. Let's go ahead and get the name back from here. Boom. And then we'll say raw data, and then we'll get the raw data from that last Lambda function. So that would be unable to hear. Okay. I'm just going to save this in again real quick. Looks like we have to run this flow one more time. All right. Let's go ahead and take another picture. Just going to take another generic one. And guys, the reason I'm taking this picture and sending this out right now is because I found that the test, the ability to test a specific step sometimes doesn't work properly, especially with Lambda functions. So what I'm going to do is actually send through an actual request, and what that'll do is show us the results in the history here. So let's just make sure that we're seeing that new request that I just sent through. I believe this is the one. Is it? No, this was not the one. Okay. All right, there we go. There's our pending one, and so it's for image to text. We'll go to history. Okay, cool. Looks like we got a success. Let's see what this. All right, cool. Awesome. So what we're going to do is go back into our flow. Now that we have our step data populated for the second Lambda function, we can go back to our Slack message, and we can say, hey, the raw data that we want to send back to our users in Slack is going to be that text detection field that's returned from AWS Lambda. From AWS Recognize, rather. All right, and our bot's name will be Claris Connect, and we'll go ahead and save that in. All right, awesome. So let's take a look here. So for demonstration purposes, let's go ahead and pull up a handy dandy quote that I was using yesterday. Let's see if I can find it right here. So this is the URL to an image that I was testing with yesterday. I thought it was just pretty cool because it's a pretty awesome quote. Why not? And then what we're going to do is just take a picture of this. I'll take a picture of this from my phone and send it to that Twilio phone number. And if all goes well, we should get the text back from this image. All right, let's go ahead and take that picture. Here we go. What's awesome is you can really see my nervous overcast shadow in the back too. It's really cool. All right, so let's take a look, and we'll wait to see if that flow was triggered successfully. And it takes a few seconds usually to populate in the history. You'll notice that there's a few second delay. However, it's a lot faster than Zapier. On Claris Connect, you get your responses in an average of 2 minutes, where on Zapier, you have to pay for tiered timing. Some requests can take as long as 15 minutes on the lowest tier. And on the higher tiers, they're about 2 minutes. Claris Connect gives you that right out the box. For no matter which tier you're on, you will get the 2-minute response times. So let's take a look. We still haven't gotten our image, have we? No. Just gonna go ahead and give this a few refreshes. Let's go ahead. Oh, there we go. Now we've got it. Image to text, we'll go to history, and still no. Oh man, let's see why. Aha, we're gonna turn this off, and we'll leave this on. Okay. Okay, that's what was happening. All right. Sorry about that. We'll try that flow one more time. Let's go back to our image here. It's really looking like the worst of times right now for me.
Was it trying to trigger both flows at once?
It was, yeah. So the flow that I had created earlier this morning to try to write to FileMaker, that was being triggered but was returning an error. So it wasn't being routed to this flow here. So let's go ahead and refresh now. You'll notice I'll refresh a few times here. Ah, what is going on? All right, so now a triggered image to text. There we go. Triggered image to text. Let's go ahead and check the history. It's still pending. In the background right now, this image is taken from this link that we provided it. Well, the link that's generated from Twilio, rather, I'm sorry. It's taking the image from the link that Twilio generates, and it's going to upload it to S3, going to use that object in S3 to run it through recognition and return to us the text in Slack, which is taking a few seconds, apparently. Still pending. Let's take a look. Oh, gosh. HTML. Request connect. All right, looks like we have a minor error in our Slack. Let's go ahead and take care of that. Let's go back here. Let's see what's wrong here. Message body, Claris Connect. I'm going to go ahead and delete this and set up my Slack one more time. I've noticed that sometimes this happens as well, but it's not a big deal. We can go ahead and connect our Slack account again. I'm going to go ahead and allow that. There we go. We'll select our ID demo here, and the body of the message will be new upload, and then we'll pass the name there, and then we'll say raw data is coming from here, and that'll be this right here. Text detection. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and let's try and review and test that, see if that works. Interesting. It seems that it's still texting. Invalid input. Let's see if we can just go ahead and get the raw data. Yeah, so that's actually Slack's like internal name for that channel. Yeah, so each one of these channels corresponds to a type of key that they use. I wonder why this isn't going through. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. I promise you guys this was working when I tried it before. Not just up here talking. Okay, let's get rid of this and see if we can just send the raw data. We're going to review and test this again. And the test button is grayed out. Valid input detected. No text. Let's see if we can at least just get the name of the file. Let's go review and test that. Oh, that's so weird. All right, let's just go ahead and save it. See if we can go back and review and test it afterwards. Okay, test action. There we go. Awesome. So now we've got this somewhat working. Let's go ahead and send the raw data back to raw data, and we'll send in, finally, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll send in our text detections. Save that in. And guys, we're going to go ahead and try this flow again. Let's go ahead and send that image back. There we go. Now let's monitor our Connect history here and make sure that that flow is in process or pending. And it'll take a second or two. Here we go. So now it's pending. Let's go ahead and check on that. Our post message is still not working. Request blocked. All right. Okay. So for some reason, it's not allowing me to write to Slack. I'd love to go ahead and debug it with you guys here live, but I think that takes quite some time, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. I've already taken up so much. But just to show you that the Lambda function was invoked and that we did get our text back from that image, right? So this was our image here. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. This is the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. and it was the age of foolishness. So let's go ahead and look on Connect. So from our second Lambda function, we are getting back those text detections. The first line says, it was the best of. The second line says, times, it was the worst. Third line, of times, it was the, and so on and so forth. So you can see we're getting our text back here. We're just unfortunately not able to send it back to Slack for some reason. All right. For those of you that are here live with us today, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to go over them with you. Either now or afterwards, you can come and find me, and we can work together, hopefully, to try to make this work. Yeah, and those of you that are in the audience, you can go ahead and reach out to us here at Harmonic. Some of us are watching from 42, my university. And if you guys know how to reach me on Slack. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer your questions as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys. That's me.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
We'll look forward to the redo.
Yeah, yeah.
Redux. Tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saturday, right? You're going to make it work?
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I'll be home and I'll be connecting.
All right. All right. So, we have a small audience here in person. So I think we're gonna go ahead and call it here. We've got some great food waiting for us, and love to chat about this casually once we're done. Again, thank you for joining us. We look forward to going on this adventure with Claris Connect with you, and everyone stay well and be safe out there. Thank you.